Dr. Rob, what is going on, my friend?
I'm like brushing up on my Minnesota knowledge.
Looking at you, you have knowledge of about everything because you are quite possibly the smartest man I know.
I think about stuff a lot.
You do think about stuff, but you're very close to Minneapolis and Minnesota because you're up in Sioux Falls quite a bit. Look at you sporting the Augustana.
I got the Augie gear on today. It's their opening week too.
Oh, is it? Do they play? Okay, so they play.
They play Saturday. So they've got University of Mary at home on Saturday.
So you'll be up in Sioux Falls on Saturday then, right?
Hoping to gun up there and catch it. It's good. Weather should be nice. Probably a little warm. I see the heat waves coming back. It was kind of nice for a few days here.
I hated the heat wave. That sucked.
That's a little much. I tend to like summer. I tend to like the warmer weather now. I didn't always used to be that way. Man, there's limits to everything.
There really, really are. I golfed last Monday.
Ooh.
And so I golfed, and on the 11th hole, I looked at my foursome and I said, guys,
we're done.
I said, I got to go. Now, we were in an outing because I was going to Pink and Brandy Carlisle that night. And I said, if I stay out here on the golf course, first of all, it's going to take another couple hours. I said, but I'm exhausted. I can't take it anymore. I'm dehydrated. And I said, I'm going to leave you three, and I'm going to go home, and I'm going to take a nap, and then I'm going to go to Pink and Brandy Carlisle. Pink and Brandy Carlisle, it was hot, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Where was the show at?
That was at Charles Schwab, so it was at the baseball stadium.
Gotcha.
32,000 people for Pink and Brandy Carlisle.
Man, they've been hosting a few concerts there.
And I was at both of them. I was at Def Leppard and Motley Crue, and then I went to Pink and Brandy Carlisle. And Pink put on, well, first of all, Brandy Carlisle, she just gets up and sings, right? But Brandy Carlisle's phenomenal. Great voice, great songwriter. Pink is just an absolute
entertainer,
and you back that up with really, really popular songs that everybody knows. I've seen a lot of acts twice, and there's not too many I would see a third time. I'm just satisfied with it. I think, you know how Dave Matthews Band, Fish, Grateful Dead, they all get those people that just travel around. I could see myself just going around and watching Pink like night after night after night.
That sounds kind of stalkerish.
I won't do it. You're 100% correct. But she puts on that good of a show.
It's a great show. We saw her down in Lincoln a few years ago. And it was a really, really entertaining show. She does a great job.
Now, you're just drinking water tonight. What the hell's up with that?
Rehydrating.
All right. I'm drinking a beer. Is that okay?
Yeah, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a Alexander Moorhead Cream Ale.
How is it?
I'm going to take my first drink right now.
I think this came from Jason at PA.
It did. This
Warner
is from
hooked us up.
India. It's from Levity Brewing out of Indiana, Pennsylvania.
All right.
I didn't know you could have a city by the name of state, by a name of a state.
I mean, isn't there like well, here, you're trying the beer. What do you think?
Ooh.
Is it good?
It is. You're missing out.
I'll try a sip later.
Okay.
And
I may have another one just in case you want to leave with one.
Well, because isn't there like the one school, it's the IUP, the Indiana University of Purdue
so it's Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. So Owen, that's going to be your task is producing tonight is to see how many states are actually city names. So you got the computer back there. You think you can handle that task by finding out how many state names are actually city names? So you have Indiana, Pennsylvania. Is there like a Massachusetts, Florida, or something like that?
I'll look right now and see if I can find a comprehensive list here.
Yeah, because you know what's going to happen is we'll get like a couple, but people will listen to this podcast.
Yeah, now I'm thinking,
and then they will come back and come back with it's kind of like the song last week, and I felt bad because you remember we ripped on the song Husker Struck. And then the guy wrote us.
There is a Florida, New York, and a Florida, Ohio.
Yeah. I can't believe I don't think there's one in Nebraska. I don't think there's one in Iowa. I'm just trying to think. But we'll let Owen find that. That's why he's behind the black curtain and has all this technology at his fingertips and is able to pull this down. Now you have a phone in front of you, but it's Levity Brewing, and I'm not into the cream ales that much, but it's kind of like a sour. You can tell it's a
That's interesting for a cream ale.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying totally sour. Here, you just want to try a little bit?
I'll try a sip.
Okay. Try not to put your mouth on that because you might have COVID or something like that. You're gonna be like, get me one. I don't know if we have any more than that.
Yeah, you're right.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it? It's really good. I could see myself.
I would not have thought if I was going to have a cream ale that I would sit there and go like, okay, this is light and refreshing.
Yeah. I mean,
like, yeah, that's
for the temperature that's today.
Yeah, would not have gone for a cream ale.
I mean, if you were out on the boat today, you could have a couple.
Yeah,
of
that would have been perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really, really good. So that's Levity Brewing Company, and it is the Alexander Moorhead Cream Ale. It's a 4.7 alcohol by volume. I'd say the IBU is probably about 50 on that, maybe 40 at most of that.
See, now I'm sitting here going like, wait, well, who is Alexander Moorhead?
He's probably some famous dude out of Indiana, PA. I don't know.
You want a couple of these states?
Yeah. So give us. These are states that are named for cities.
Cities that are named for states.
Okay.
I only got a few
that
are up here, but there's an Alabama, New York, Montana, Wisconsin, Alaska, New Mexico, Maryland, Texas, New York, and a New York, Texas.
There's New York, Texas.
Yeah. And a Texas, New York.
That's funny.
Did you notice a lot of them are in New York? Did you notice that?
Two of them are.
Yeah.
Two of them were.
Wow.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Did you say there was an Alaska, Texas?
There's an Alaska, New Mexico.
Alaska, New Mexico. Are you not creative at that point where you just say, let's call our city a state?
I'm thinking some dude from Alaska came down and settled in New Mexico, founded a town, and decided to call it Alaska just for shits and giggles.
Probably right. He like founded the town.
Exactly.
Yukon Jack came down from
and founded Alaska, New Mexico.
Because he missed home so much. He missed home. Hey, I've come bearing gifts today.
I like gifts.
Now, if you're listening to this on the audio version of the podcast, you're going to have to go to our YouTube channel at Doc Talk Sports and be able to see this. But Rob, we got a box in the mail today.
Nice.
You are now an official BetFred Sports VIP.
So here's a question.
Okay.
As you're handing me the VIP box from BetFred, they started in 1967.
Yeah, in the UK. So,
well, I knew it was UK. I did not Oh, look at that.
And Fred is still alive, by the way. Fred is still ticking. Fred's still with us.
Here, so I'm checking it out. How old is Fred?
Oh, I think he's in his 80s, maybe. I don't know. Look at that. Look at you. You got yourself a BetFred black polo.
I'll wear it for the next pod.
Now,
that'll be good.
Is that the XXX or is that the XX?
Well, this says 2X.
Okay, that's probably mine.
Oh.
And yours, I got you a triple.
Nice. So you're saying I'm fat?
No, I'm just saying you're about 6 to 7 inches taller than I am, and a XXX made more sense when they asked me what your size was. Are you a XX?
2 to 3.
Yeah, I just thought 3 would be a lot safer. I'm just saying. Just saying. Also, we have breaking. Oh, and I felt bad because they only sent 2 hats and 2 polos. You know who got left off here, right?
Producer Owen.
Owen, were you a little hurt about that?
No, I'm not. Well, I'm not hurt, but I would have appreciated a polo.
I wrote Eric today and I said, hey, you forgot somebody off the VIP list. And so I put in a request so you can get yourself a BetFred polo.
Oh, thank you.
Rob's going to put the hat on. He's going full. You're going full BetFred.
I got to expand it.
Because you got a big head.
That is true.
Big head. Man, you're like a black shirt today because you've got the black Augustana T-shirt. You got the black BetFred hat.
It's actually blue Augustana.
That is not a blue shirt.
It is a blue shirt.
That is not a blue shirt.
Because you're colorblind.
No, it matches your hat, and I know that hat's black. If anybody says that's blue, they're crazy.
I actually think the hat's kind of a dark blue.
I think this one is gray bluish. That one's black. I promise you.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
They got different colors.
It's different color.
You're right. It is.
Yes.
That is a black hat.
Yeah. You're going to go with the blue hat.
Well, I want it to match the Augustana shirt, which is blue.
It is not blue.
It's totally blue.
I'm telling you, I was looking at the Augustana photos today. I get the blue jerseys. I like the yellow jerseys a lot that they're wearing.
That's the freshman.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, that shirt's not blue. And if you're watching on YouTube, just write in the comments, Rob, that's
blue.
a black shirt.
It's blue.
That's a black shirt, dude. Okay, we do have break.
Different.
Not very much.
It's different.
Oh, okay. You convince yourself of that.
The walls in your basement, are these blue or black?
Those are blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that shirt doesn't match the...
you're killing me, dude.
Does not match the walls. Okay? Just saying.
Hey, Creighton is not the only blue shade of blue, okay?
Well, if you see the Creighton... I know. Look at that. Look at that shade of blue. I see the different shades of blue.
I mean, this is the guy, he's trying to tell me about visual awareness, and he's got the Hawkeye missing the bottom jaw over here.
That's Owen. He ordered that thing. I'm blaming. If I have to blame something, I always blame it on Owen.
Oh man,
I know that's
passing
not fair.
the buck.
But I have to give Owen credit for something. We have breaking news.
Let's hear it.
Okay, we have the Twitter account. We have the Facebook account.
Oh,
we have the YouTube account. Ladies and gentlemen, Doc Talk Sports now has a TikTok account.
What are we going to do with a TikTok account? Are we going to dance?
No. We're not going to dance. So what we're going to do is, because we have a lot of video now, and yes, the podcast is about an hour and a half long.
Oh, we can do like podcast segments.
Yeah, so little segments. Like this morning, Owen was in here and he edited a couple from the Aaron Graham interview. So we put up who we thought the best athlete on the line was.
Oh, nice.
And then he put up the story that he told about Brendan Stye at Chiefs camp. You remember when he was in the
with
weight
the
room?
dumbbells?
Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah. So we're just going to take little snippets from the podcast, put up there, and have a little bit of fun. But if you're a TikToker, and I feel weird saying that because I'm going to be 53 next month, and I have a TikTok account.
Getting old.
I am getting old. I'm getting really old, man. So, but yeah, so you can find us on TikTok. Just do at Doc Talk Sports, and you should be able to find us. It's that simple. So, yeah, there you go. Follow us on TikTok. We've added to our social media profile. We're trying to become influencers, Rob.
Across the spectrum of platforms.
It's weird. And it's hard to keep up. I mean, we probably should have
it kind of is, but in terms of the outreach that you're looking for, you probably hit a little bit of a younger audience with TikTok.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And some of it, because I mean, can you still do the Twitter live videos now that it's X? I don't know.
No, you can't do live, I don't think, anymore. However, our first live, and I don't know if you're going to be a part of it Wednesday night or not. You are still up in the air.
Yeah, I'm going to try and hop on with Scott.
Yeah, so we have our first Behind the Point Spread coming up Wednesday night, and that's going to be with Scott Spreitzer. We're going to be live on YouTube at about 8 o'clock. We'll also be live on my LinkedIn profile. We'll be live on Twitter. We'll be live on Facebook. So you'll be able to find us all over the place. But we'll be live with Scott Spreitzer out of Las Vegas. And we'll pick 3-4 games. Of course, Nebraska, Minnesota will be one of those. But that will be our first live show. So I've got to pick up something for you. So I got to get you. I'm going to get you like one of these fancy things for your house.
No.
Yeah, going to get you a light, all sorts of fancy stuff.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, I know. We're up in our game here, Rob.
We're kind of big time.
Yeah, well, we're trying to be. We're really, really, really trying to be. And BetFred sent the VIP package for us. But
By the way, thanks to BetFred.
Yeah, maybe we'll get to go to Vegas someday. Maybe you and I will be able to go to Vegas. We'll take Owen and we'll stay at the new Virgin Hotel where the book is. And
so that's where BetFred's book is at. They're keeping it British.
Yeah, so it's at the Virgin Hotel. Now it's off the Strip, but it's.
I don't know if that's a problem.
No, I don't think it's a problem at all. But everybody who listens to the Doc Talk podcast is a BetFred VIP because exclusively for the Minnesota game and exclusively for Doc Talk podcast listeners, you can use the promo code CORN, CORN, promo code CORN to get a 100% risk-free bet on Nebraska against Minnesota. You can bet the spread, you can bet the money line, you can bet the total up to $50. So, for example, let's say you lay $100 on any of those markets and you lose, well, you're going to get $50 in Fred bets back. If you bet $10 and lose $10, you're going to get that $10 back. If you bet $50, you're going to get $25 back if you lose. If you bet $50, you're going to get the whole $50 back. That's exclusively for Doc Talk podcast listeners. So first of all, you have to be in a state where gambling is legal. You have to be in a state where BetFred operates. Again, it's 100% risk-free. Now, it's a little wonky because, and I tried to make it easy, and we tried to make it as easy as possible. Just reach out to BetFred's direct chat line in the help section of the customer service portal and type that promo code in, and you'll be recorded, and the agents there will make sure you're eligible. I believe if you're a brand new customer, let's say you just sign up, you can use the promo code CORN, and that should get you. However, if you're an existing customer, go to the help section of the customer service portal, type that promo code in, and they should be able to get it recorded by the agents to be eligible. Again, promo code CORN. It's for the Nebraska-Minnesota game. A risk-free bet, 100% risk-free, up to $50. So there you go. That's a pretty cool deal, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's actually a really good deal.
Yeah. So there's no other reason to place your Nebraska bet anywhere else than with BetFred.
Unless you're in the state of Nebraska.
Well, yeah.
Then you got to drive to a strip club like Travis.
Or you can just drive into Council Bluffs. The strip club's easier for me, just where I'm located. But you can just you can go over to any parking lot in Council Bluffs and make that bet legally. It'd be a piece of cake. Speaking of the Minnesota game, this is weird. They're kicking off on a Thursday. First Thursday game for Nebraska since 2010. I believe in 2010.
Is it really that long?
It's been that long ago. Yeah.
I would have thought there would have been another one in there.
No, it was 2010. I believe they played Kansas State that year. First of all, what do you think of kicking the season off on a Thursday? And I think, did you do it in 94 at Texas Tech or Oklahoma State?
That was in 95.
Oh, was it?
I think it was 95 they did Oklahoma State.
Okay.
So my senior year in 94, that was the kickoff classic that we opened with.
Against West Virginia, right?
Against West Virginia. Then we came back and played Texas Tech. And that actually might have been a Thursday night game.
It was. I remember that.
Here's the thing, though. That was pre-Big 12. We were Big 8. So that was not a conference game. So that was a little different. I'm not sure that it was that big of a deal for us because we had already started off the season with the kickoff classic, so you're already kind of used to that kind of somewhat disjointedness to the schedule. So you're going to the kickoff classic, and it's basically sort of like doing a preseason bowl game in New York City. So I mean, it's kind of cool. It has that bowl game feel. You got the whole team on the road. It's a neutral site for both schools. It was it was a cool experience, but there is a little bit of disjointedness to it. And then rolling into a Thursday night game after that, at that point you're already dealing with that out of normal routine. And so I didn't think it was that big a deal at the time. This year, when you're looking at opening on a Thursday night, when it's that first game of the season, I don't think it matters because you don't have anything before it to measure it up against. You just start your normal, what would be a normal game week prep 2 days earlier. And then play the game on a Thursday, and in your head, you're thinking it's a Saturday, but you kind of remove the day of the weeks from it and just consider it's game day, and you start your game day prep a couple days earlier than you would otherwise. If it's a middle of the season Thursday night game, there is some tweaking there to the schedule that you got to deal with. I think doing it as the opener, not a big deal at all. Doing it during the season, middle of the season, like I said, just because of that. Well, that short week before and the long week after, there is a little getting used to with that.
That's why the NFL guys don't like those Thursday games. They're like, you're making us play on Sunday, you turn around and play on Thursday. That's not fair.
And I did that, and those were brutal.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, to start the season with a Thursday game is really no big deal because you just started school. It's your first game. You can start that prep. And then you actually get a couple extra days to get for the next game, which is going to be Colorado. How about this one? no new Nebraska coach has won their first game as coach since Bo Pelini in 2008.
Oof. That's kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about that. But I mean, I think people really thought Frost would have a good chance to. That obviously didn't work out, but
I stumped you.
I mean, well, basically,
it's just Mike Riley and Scott Frost.
Yeah. It's two guys. So,
but I think the Riley one was surprising because Bo was coming off 9 wins. It wasn't like the cupboard was bare right there.
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people thought Scott would have an opportunity. But when it comes to history,
and actually, Riley's first team wasn't a horrible team.
No, it wasn't. I think that's why
their record wasn't that good, but that was also the team that went out to California and smacked a halfway decent UCLA team around in a bowl game that year.
Yeah. So, but again, no new Nebraska coach has won a first game since Bo Pelini in 2008. But the good thing, I love Matt Rule. Matt Rule, and what I mean by I love Matt Rule is he's a great soundbite, and I think he approaches things in a realistic manner. Does that mean he gets stressed out? No, he does. But he has a way of putting it. And I love the fact, because a lot of Husker fans have lived in the past for a long time. They have, because they hold on to the glory years, and that's what they want it to be like. And Matt Rule is basically saying, listen, the past is the past. There's nothing you can do about it.
Sometimes I get upset when, like, you guys ask a question, our guys will talk about last year. I don't think there's any value in us talking about the past other than learning from it, like the football. Because it has nothing to do with me. Like, I wasn't here. So, like, why would I talk about, like, if you were asking me, like, hey, Matt, let's talk about what happened at Baylor or Carolina or Temple, I'd 100, but I think what's happened in the past was just a different entity. We have to answer for the things that we do, right? So I'm more worried about just being on the front end of what we do than the previous things that have happened, if that makes any sense.
Makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah.
When you say, hey, I had nothing to do with it, I can't look at that because I wasn't part of it.
Yeah, the only, and that sometimes there's a little validity to that question, and I say that in the sense of, let's say you have a coaching change where you do have the bulk of a team returning. Most of the starters back, you kind of have maybe a core structure coming back. This year it's going to be so much different because you lost it's a different quarterback. Your star wide receivers now with Tampa Bay, which, by the way, he looks amazing.
I know.
Like all of it, you're just like, yeah, he really was that good, wasn't he? So kudos for Trey Palmer. Wish we had him. Would have been a difference maker, but I also understand why he went pro. So you lost a handful of guys off of that defense as well too. It's a different enough entity that I think Rule's statement is valid. I guess I would look at a situation where maybe like Bill Callahan came in his first year, kind of tanked,
but he didn't have to. Bill Callahan shoved a system down the people's throat and did not play to his strength.
He pounded a square peg into a round hole.
Didn't need to.
Didn't need to do that, but he wanted to do it and get it installed. But I mean, the bulk of that team was coming back. You had your starting quarterback back, bulk of the defense, a lot of the other guys on offense. When you look at when Mike Riley took over and he had Tommy Armstrong at quarterback, again, you had enough of the key components from that previous season that I think in some of these situations, it's a valid question. I think for Rule's right. Boy, it's hard to draw comparisons from last year to this year, just because I think enough of the key components, the key players aren't there anymore.
But you do have to be careful that there's a creeping mentality, because what is contagious? Losing's contagious, right? And there's still enough players on this team that are they're dying to win. They are really dying to win. And that's what Coach Rule is saying, is that when it comes to this team, they have to learn how to win, and they do want to win, and they're sick and tired of losing.
They haven't won, right? Like, when you haven't won, you start being like, man, are we ever going to win? And what we've asked our guys to do is to take ownership of that. You know what I'm saying? So I'll be honest with you. I will answer this though. I think this is like one of the most resilient groups of young people I've ever been around. Like, I've said it a couple times. I don't know if people take me seriously. Like, I really feel like it's my obligation to watch. I mean, I remember Garrett Nelson sitting in my office, and Garrett Nelson needed to go to the NFL. Like, he was getting older. While I would love to have coached him, I was like, bro, this is your time. Like, go make it happen. But I remember Garrett, and I hope he's okay with sharing this, talking about like his father's legacy here and like how he wanted to be part of the group that turned it around. And I remember visiting with Nick and Luke, and they're trying to figure out, should we transfer? Should we stick around? Like, Coach Rule, your MO is to kind of not be very good early and play the young guys. So, but their care for the program was so strong that I feel a tremendous obligation. Like, man, we have to find a way to help these guys win. So I don't know if they're beaten down as much as I would say just sort of like they want this so badly and they haven't been able to, and they're kind of looking everywhere. And I think we've just tried to be very focused about, hey, let's focus on these things. So I feel like we're in a good place right now.
That was a question from Eric Olson from the Associated Press. Eric's a good dude. He asked really good questions, but he tried to get him to talk about the former regime, and he goes, I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to talk bad about Scott. I'm not going to do it because I wasn't here. But he went on to say, listen, they're tired of losing, and they do want to win. But I think that's been prevalent. Everybody wants to win, right?
Yeah, I do kind of wonder. Now, here's the thing. I haven't been to the practices. I haven't been around Coach Rule at all, really.
We've tried like hell to get him in the basement. We got blown off.
I would be curious what the messaging is, because when I played, and I'm going to clarify a few things here. The whole Tom Osborne, more than winning mantra, all of that stuff. When you were down there at that time, there was not a lot of focus on winning. It was on
because you were winning.
Well, and that's kind of where I'm saying I'm going to have to like qualify a few things here, clarify a few things. At that time period, we were winning, so maybe that's just a product of that. But the focus always seemed to be on the process, on the journey. I mean, it was the 1,000,001 things you got to do in practice. There's the 1,000,001 aspects of technique, of playing your position that you were focused on. There was Coach Osborne with his Ed Psych PhD rattling off statistics on third down conversion percentage, turnover numbers, and pass completion percentage, that if we hit X number of these statistical benchmarks, we had a 97% chance of winning the game, and which I suppose was a little bit of a focus on winning. But you weren't worried about winning. You were worried about all these little benchmarks. You were worried about these 1,000,001 little technique aspects. Those were the things you were thinking about. You weren't thinking about winning. You weren't thinking about losing. You were just thinking about going out and doing what you had to do correctly with the right technique.
Now, Nebraska had Minnesota what looked like to be beat last year. They were up 10-0 at halftime. Minnesota came back, won 20-13. The Gophers were down 10-0 until a field goal with 10:30 left in the third. That got them on the board. Minnesota, I think, has won the last 4 games in the series by like 7 points each.
It's been close, but they've definitely had Nebraska's number.
Yeah, they have, and a lot of that's been under PJ Fleck. But it's Nebraska finishing games, right? It's getting to the fourth quarter. And Matt Rule met with Tom Osborne, I think earlier last week. Coach Osborne went to his office and they just had a philosophical talk. And you just kind of spoke to the little things. And one of the things they talked about was being the better team in the fourth quarter.
We're going to be a team. I don't know when. We're going to be a team that plays our best football in the fourth quarter. Coach Osborne came up the other day and just wanted to, what an unbelievable man. Just wanted to shake my hand and wish me luck. And we started asking him about Minnesota and started asking about some other things, and at the end of the day, he was like, we always wanted to be a team. His Cornhuskers that won the fourth quarter was the best team in the fourth quarter. And that's what we've been preaching since day one. So again, as I tell our guys, when the ethos of who we are matches the legacy of what came before us, then we can build a legacy that comes after us. And, this is a really good team. I don't know if we'll be the best team in the fourth quarter, but I can tell you that we will be trying to play our best football then. So if we do that, we're well on our way to being a team that can compete for wins and championships and bowl games and all the things that we want to have happen eventually.
What I like there is there wasn't a lot of there was coach speak and soundbiteness, but in a different way. I mean, and he clarified it. I don't know if we'll be the best team in the fourth quarter. So he put that caveat.
He's hedging his bets a little bit.
He's hedging his bet a little bit, just saying, we want to be, I don't know if we will be, which is a pretty smart thing to do.
Yeah, well, that's tough because, I mean, when you look at what Nebraska's done, I mean, man, really look at the last couple years. God, this is a team that just, I mean, you almost expected them to let you down late in games. I mean, it was almost, I mean, you were almost surprised if they buckled down and won in the fourth. You really were. I mean, that has not been Nebraska's MO the past few years.
It almost got to the point where if they were even up by a touchdown, you're like, they're not going to win it.
Yeah. Well, okay, think back, was that 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Where Iowa blocked the punt for the touchdown in Lincoln.
That would have been 2 years ago.
Okay, so for two years ago. So I was at the game. I was there with my oldest daughter, and yeah, Iowa blocks that punt, scores.
They were still winning.
Nebraska was still ahead. Nebraska still had the lead. And it was just, man, it just let the air out of the entire stadium. You looked over at the sideline, the Nebraska sideline just thump. It killed it. And you just knew they were not winning that game. It wasn't going to happen. You just knew it. I mean, that's been almost the trademark for Nebraska the last few years is those fourth quarter implosions. Look at, I mean, the Colorado games they played Frost's first 2 years. I mean, the one out in Boulder, we were winning handily in the first half. We even scored to retake a lead late in the game. Mo Washington had that catch in the flat that he took like 80 yards for a touchdown late in the game to put Nebraska back up. Still lost. It was just, I mean, that was Nebraska's trademark really the last few years.
But it's been like, it was like that under Mike Riley. It was like that under Scott Frost.
Yeah, I mean, Riley was kind of a little all over the place, I guess. I mean, he did some good things. He did some bad things. I mean, he was a good, solid 500 coach, I guess. He wasn't great. He wasn't great. I don't think Riley was horrible. I definitely don't think he was great. But yeah, especially under Frost, those fourth quarter implosions were just, I mean,
they were epic.
They were epic, legendary.
I mean, the only time they didn't implode was, well, and Mickey was coaching, was against Iowa last year.
Yeah,
but
they had, I think the Indiana, was it the Indiana game and the Rutgers game? They kind of held on.
I'm sorry, against a good team.
Damn. It's the Big Ten. There's a lot of solid teams.
Well, I
understand what you're saying. And that actually, I thought, was a pretty good gut check because Iowa turned the ball over so many times in that game. At the end, Nebraska still won by what? Just one score?
They won 24-17.
Yeah, so they won by just one score in that game last year. So, I mean, Iowa was creeping back in. I worried that game was going to be one of these games that, dude, we need Iowa to run out of time. Otherwise, we're going to lose this game.
I think that might have been one of them. Because, they turned the ball over so much. And, I mean, and Nebraska just did a really good job.
They put up some big plays early. So.
Yeah, put up some really, really big plays. Another thing that, as Nebraska gets ready for Minnesota, we're going to talk a little bit about the Gophers, and we'll hear from PJ Fleck a little bit later on. Though I think, now, I haven't been to every press conference. Those days are over for me. Yeah, exactly. Those days are over for me. I don't want to. I like doing this. I like you and I getting together on the weekend, talk about what we saw, what we heard. It's much better than devoting like 24 hours of my day to this shit. I still enjoy it. It's just I like doing this a little bit more. However, I don't think I've heard this out of a Nebraska coach for some time. My mind is always in baseball was probably my best sport when I did play, and I still like baseball because I find there's so many unique things that happen in baseball, and you have to know what's going on all the time. Same is really that way with basketball, any sport really. But here's Matt Rule talking about something that I don't think I've heard a Nebraska coach talk about maybe since Tom Osborne. And I want to get your feedback. And I could be mistaken. Maybe Solich did. Maybe Callahan did. I just don't remember it because I'm getting older. But this is something I haven't heard out of a Nebraska coach for some time.
Just all these end-of-game situations. And I'd say when I first started, I'd say, what do you guys hear? And I'd have like 3 guys, Well, now there's a chorus of guys that understand what's happening, understand the situation, what should happen. So I'd say our situational awareness has really jumped up. And in a day and age where a lot of guys don't really watch football, like I watch the ESPN game, and I'm like, did anybody watch it? And they all kind of look at me like, and they're watching that they're watching the highlights on YouTube or they're watching it on TikTok, which is, hey, it is what it is, man. But watching that together, I think is really good because we have a common language situationally.
Talking about the situations that happening, you can't get them off highlights. You have to watch a game to understand each situation you're in. Baseball is a game of situations. Football is, every game is. When's the last time you heard a coach talk about knowing the game situationally, that when he first started in Nebraska, like 3 guys knew the situation, and now they're coming along and understanding what those situations are?
That's interesting to me because that's something that has bothered me since, even I'm thinking back, even through the Pelini years. Okay, this is great because I'm referencing, I can't remember what year, but it was Minnesota versus Nebraska in Lincoln. Pelini was the head coach. The offensive coordinator. He was the former.
Sean Watson.
No, after Watson. He was the Kansas guy.
Oh.
Kansas, then he and Tim Herman were like co-O coordinators.
Was it Tim Beck? Tim Beck. Who's now at Coastal Carolina with Joe Mowgli.
Yeah. So it was Tim Beck was the offensive coordinator. And so here's the situational awareness as I'm watching the game and not seeing this play out is Nebraska was ahead by 1 score. And less than a touchdown. I think it was like a 3-point lead or 5-point lead, something like that. Anyway, Nebraska was driving in Minnesota territory, and I think it was because of a penalty, they got actually, big first down play. It was 2nd and very short, like 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2. Now, the problem is Minnesota had been running the ball very well all day. They'd been moving the ball. They kind of had this bend but don't, it's sort of the bend but don't break version of offense where they're moving the ball, but they hadn't put a ton of points up yet. But they really had Nebraska's defense tired out. So if I'm Nebraska's offense, I've got a 2nd and 1, 2nd and 2 in the opponent's territory, and I know my defense is tired out. What's the most important thing in that situation?
If you know your
if you
get
know
the hell off the field,
your defense is tired out. Now I'm talking about Nebraska. So Nebraska's got the ball,
okay,
but Nebraska's defense is gassed.
You got to keep a drive going.
Exactly. You got a 2nd and 1 in the opponent's territory.
You don't go out of the shotgun. You give it to a fullback and get a yard.
Exactly. You do not want to turn that ball over. You don't want to end up in 3rd down, 4th down situation. You want to get that damn first down. That is your biggest goal. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, shit, it's Tim Beck. He does not have great situational awareness. He's going to be sitting there going, oh, well, I got a 2nd and 1. I'm taking a shot at the end zone. I'm going for it. I'm going for the big play right here because he's looked at it going like, well, and if I don't get it, it's only 2nd down. I can go for that on 3rd down. Well, so sure enough, they drop back. They take a shot at the end zone. Don't get it. Now it is 3rd down. They bumble the ball and get dropped for a loss.
Probably out of the shotgun, too, which drives me crazy.
Yeah, it was out. Both plays were out of the shotgun. And now Nebraska, actually, the loss on 3rd down put them in 4th and long, and it actually took them out of field goal range. So it was just this complete disaster. So now they got to punt. And so they punt to Minnesota. Nebraska's defense comes right back on the field. They're still gassed. Minnesota just drives down the field, chews up a huge chunk of fourth quarter clock, and scores the go-ahead touchdown.
And you know why that is?
Lack of situational awareness by the coach.
And also because Minnesota has an identity on offense. And what I mean by that is they like to control the ball. Minnesota dominated time of possession last year. You ready for this, Rob? They averaged per game 34 minutes and 32 seconds with the ball.
To average that is huge.
That's third nationally.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is, and here's one more for you. Minnesota was one of the top teams in the country on both sides of the ball on third downs. The offense finished third in FBS and conversion percentage, while the defense was sixth in opponent conversions. Minnesota's offense converted 87 of 167 third downs for 52.10%. So you were just talking about right there.
Those are numbers that you're going to win a good handful of games every year, but it's also those are that you can tell there's a coach that has situational awareness.
Yes.
But Minnesota's done that to Nebraska ever since Nebraska came into the Big Ten.
And I think they've done it. There's a reason. Listen, people don't like PJ Fleck, and I understand.
What, back-to-back 9-win seasons? Is that correct?
He's 44-27.
He has done a good job.
Yes, you cannot deny. I mean, Nebraska fans right now would take a 44-27 record.
Yes.
The reason people
I'd take a 9-win season most years. That's what he's doing up there.
Do you know why? Do you know why people don't like him?
He's a weird dude.
He's a weird dude. Do you ever watch the show Suits? Has Meghan Markle in it?
I know of the show. I have actually never watched Suits.
I started watching it. He's Harvey Specter. He's the well-dressed, confident lawyer who thinks his shit doesn't stink, right? But PJ Fleck, he talks the talk, but he walks the walk. You can't now. Has he won Big Ten titles?
Which honestly, that's probably also the reason he drives people nuts, is that he is that way. And he has backed it up.
Yes.
They've been a really solid team under him.
Now, people say, well, he doesn't have a Big Ten title. No, he doesn't. But he's got 9-win seasons.
And I was going to say Ferris has his number.
Well,
isn't he 0-6 against
I
Ferris?
believe so. Yeah, absolutely. Now, it'll be different this year because they lost a quarterback from a year ago.
They lost their all-time lead.
Yeah.
Dude, I loved watching.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of opponents I like to watch. I loved watching Ibrahim run. And I was going to say, Tanner Morgan was there for what, like 9 years?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I feel like the guy was there forever.
So, Ethan, I'm gonna butcher the guy's name because it sounds Greek. Ethan Kaliakmanis takes over at quarterback. He actually played in 11 games last year. He started 5. He was actually better as a starter. His numbers got a lot better as he was a starter. They brought in some transfers.
Is it Western Michigan at running back?
Yeah, so you got Corey Crooms at wide receiver and Sean Tyler, both came from Western Michigan.
Okay.
And Elijah Spencer came from Charlotte. So those guys that came from Western...
Crooms and Spencer are pretty solid wide.
Pretty solid.
They'll be good.
But, a lot of people think...
And they're tight ends on like everybody's Mackey list.
But a lot of people think, well, you got these new players, you got a new quarterback, your offensive philosophy is going to change. And PJ Fleck said that's just not the case.
It's the execution of the offense. And I think that's what, and the efficiency of the offense. That's what we want to be able to see with what we do and how we do it. There's different people out there with different strengths, but that doesn't mean the system changes. There's a reason you hire from within to keep that system very similar. But again, everybody has their own DNA and personality, and they're going to put that within the philosophical beliefs of the offense.
He brought up a couple years ago when they had 2 first-team wideouts, Big Ten, and they still ran the football 64% of the time. It's what you do when you pass. It's the execution.
Yeah, and they've stayed with that. I mean, they have been a good, solid, established the run type team from the get-go. And it's worked. That works in the Big Ten. I mean, I look at when Bielema came back to
Illinois,
to the Big Ten, came to Illinois, and I mean, right out of the gate, huge O lines, huge defensive lines, run the ball, control the line of scrimmage. Fleck, I don't know. Fleck looks like one of those guys who wants to install this crazy wide open offense.
It's not.
He does not look or talk the part of your classic old school Big Ten coach.
He's probably closer to Kirk Ferentz than what you think.
In terms of like personality?
No. In the way you run your offense.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing is that, but with the product that you're seeing on the field, it's old school Big Ten. It's Kirk Ferentz. It's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. It's established the run. Pass when you have to, but when you do, pass well.
And control the clock. I always say pound the rock, control the clock.
Yeah, if you can do those 2 things, you're going to win a lot of games, and they do that. The one other question I would have, and I don't think it's going to be a huge issue for Minnesota, they lost their 3 interior D-line. And actually, I think their center went to the Giants in the draft. That's a big chunk of your O-line gone.
Yep.
On the flip side, Minnesota has just consistently had very solid, very consistently had consistent O-line play. So that's something I would expect. Those would be reloadings, I would assume, as opposed to rebuilds.
They've got 49 starts coming back on the O-line, replacing 3 of the 5 original starters from last year.
Yeah, so they've got guys coming back, and they've got guys on that roster, and it's going to be big physical O-linemen.
Now, the big thing is we've talked a lot about Minnesota's offense, and for good reason, because they like to pound the rock, they want to control the clock, but they are also hitting a Nebraska defense that they've never seen before, and that is the 3-3-5 that Nebraska will run at the Gophers on Thursday.
What they do in the 3-3-5, it creates a lot of issues because you can be in a 3-down front before the snap and a 5-down front when the ball snapped, right? You can do that with double barrel. You can create all types of fronts, 4-down fronts, 5-down fronts. You can blitz to it to get to a certain front. You can stunt to get to a certain front. You can create angles constantly. So it's a very complex defense, and without any game film to know exactly how they're going to run it, again, that's what it means by preparing for ghosts. We have a sense, and there's so many ways you can do that, but there's a lot of ways you can do that. Now, which ones are they going to use? How often are they going to use it? What are the tendencies? You can go back to different places that coordinators have been or head coaches have been, but it's still not 100% accurate.
So,
which, I mean, one of the things he's talking about there a little bit. So Tony White, Nebraska's new D coordinator, he's a Syracuse guy. One of the guys that coached with him at Syracuse, I can't remember what position it was, if it's the linebackers coach or D-backs coach, but one of the Minnesota coaches was with Tony White at Syracuse when they ran this 3-3-5. So they're going to have probably a little bit better idea of what's coming. Now, obviously not specific personnel-wise, but they're going to have probably a little bit better idea of what's coming, as opposed to just kind of facing this new out of the box with zero experience. There's guys on Minnesota's staff that kind of know the ins and outs of this defense.
But he's right, though. You don't have really any way to scout it out, right?
Yeah, the only film and I've been on teams where we've played new coordinators before, and it is kind of weird because you spend the whole week prior to the game watching tendencies and lineups and plays from the team that coordinator came from, not the team you're actually playing. So it does create a little bit of a weird dynamic from a preparation standpoint in that regard. But you kind of at least know what some of these looks are probably going to appear as.
So Thursday night, Nebraska kicks off the season and the conference season with a divisional foe at Minnesota, 7 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Gus Johnson's going to be on the call. I believe Joel Klatt's going to be on the call. Rob, Nebraska is a 7.5-point underdog on the BetFred Sports app. The money line, Nebraska plus 225, and the over-under at 43.5. So give me your predictions here.
I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, here's the thing. You're at home, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota's at home. You've got an established coach. You've got some new guys in that lineup, running back, kind of quarterback. But like we said, that Kaliakmanis, he's played. It's not like Sims coming in and it's his first time anybody's seen him in this uniform before. So it's you've got a guy who's been there, knows the system. He started games there before. You're going to probably be relying heavily on that offensive line. You're going to rely heavily on the run game. You're going to try and control the clock. And Minnesota's played reasonably decent defense the last few years as well, too. It's just you've got things that are already established up there in Minneapolis that we don't have in Lincoln yet. There's a pretty big gap, in my opinion, between these two teams.
So you're taking Minnesota to win.
Yeah, I mean,
are they going to cover the spread though?
Was it 7.5?
7.5. That half point gets me all the time.
Yeah, that's the problem. If it was 7, I'd say yeah.
Yeah, the last 3 or 4 games been decided by 7. I'll take.
I'm going to say yeah, they cover.
Okay, but Minnesota wins.
I think Minnesota wins.
How about the 43.5? You're talking what?
Ooh. That's your over/under.
Yeah,
under.
You're taking the under.
I'm taking the under.
All right. Well, I tell you what, you just heard Rob's predictions. If you want to bet on the Nebraska-Minnesota game, BetFred Sports is making it easy for you with a 100% risk-free bet. All you have to do is bet the Nebraska spread, the money line, or the total up to $50, and 100% of your bet is risk-free. For example, if you bet $50 and you lose, you're going to get $50 back in Fred bets. So if you lose $10, you get $10 back. You lose $25, you get $25 back. Use the promo code CORN. If you're already a BetFred subscriber and user, just reach out to BetFred's direct chat line in the help section of the customer service portal and type that promo code in, and they'll record it by the agents, and you'll be eligible. If you're a brand new person setting up an account and downloading the app, use the promo code CORN, and you'll get that 100% risk-free bet on the Nebraska-Minnesota game, exclusive to Doc Talk podcast listeners from BetFred Sports. You know, Connor Orr is a friend of the podcast and a licensed sports agent in the state of Nebraska. He works directly with athletes and businesses to help them navigate the ever-changing landscape of name, image, and likeness. Connor also focuses on corporate and personal injury litigations in both Nebraska and Iowa, and he can work with you on your business planning, estate planning, and real estate transactions. Call Connor today at 402-408-6488. How about Husker Hounds? Head to Husker Hounds today for all your volleyball apparel. Right now, all volleyball apparel is 25% off, leading up to the Memorial Stadium matches on August 30th. Scott has some really cool shirts to commemorate the event. 2 locations in the Omaha area, the Superstore at 84th and Center, and also out west at 171st and Lakeside Hills Plaza. Or you can make it really easy on yourself and shop at huskerhounds.com, where you get free shipping on orders over $50 and flat shipping rate of $4.95 on anything under $50. I'm looking forward to that. Just as a sports fan,
the volleyball
thing's going to be
going to be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be really
really cool. I like the fact that you've got teams like Kearney and is it Kearney, Wayne State, UNO, and
Nebraska? I believe so. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a state thing, right?
Yeah.
It's super cool. And Trev throwing a bone to his former school, UNO. He didn't have to do that. I mean, but that's pretty cool.
I think it's really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be crazy to see that many people in there for a volleyball match. I think they've already started laying out like the...
Yeah, have you seen the photos?
Yeah, start getting everything ready.
Putting the platform on the field.
Yeah. 80,000 people for volleyball.
90.
I mean, you get nervous for something like that, right? I mean, I get the Devaney Center is a cool place to play volleyball. You walk out and see 90,000 people.
Yeah, but when it's Nebraska volleyball, think of some of these huge matches they've played, Final Four matches. They've played in some of the largest crowds in college volleyball history. This is something they don't get nervous for; they get excited for.
Okay, I can go with that.
Yeah, I think they'll be fun. I think what it'll be interesting is seeing how somebody like Kearney, UNO, Wayne State, how are they going to react and play in front of a crowd like that?
The biggest news of the week, Ted Carter resigned. Dude, I was shocked.
I was bummed. Not at him.
That's like the coolest dude in the world. He's Top Gun, man.
Yeah, literally. We had a Top Gun pilot as our university president.
Why do people not stay in that position? Seriously, I mean, you had a Nebraska guy who took the Texas, I get it. It's Texas, it's money. You hear it, the Ohio State, and you're like, oh, it's probably just a lot easier.
I'm sure money played into that. At the same time, too, I think some of it's got to be some of the politics in the state right now.
You think so?
Yeah, because I think when you're dealing with a university, there's kind of some ideals that are sort of, I'm going to say, inherent to a university environment. And what I mean by that is you go to school to get to get not just your knowledge tested, but I think you need to get values, other ideals, opinions. You go there to get exposed to different ideas.
I don't disagree with you.
You go there to get your values tested a little bit. And I don't say that in a bad sense. I think it's good to go someplace and hear what somebody else's values are when they're different from yours. And I think you have a political climate in the state right now that doesn't like that. Now, I've always considered myself to lean a little on the conservative side. But I don't have a problem with somebody questioning my values, and I don't necessarily have a problem questioning somebody else's values. But I think you ought to go someplace where you get exposed to stuff that you may not agree with, and that's a university. That's what college is supposed to be like.
I agree with you. Here's my whole problem with, and it may happen at university. It seems it does. I don't like you got to pick a team. I can be on any team I want. If I can agree with somebody on the left, I can agree with somebody on the right. I mean, it's just there's different.
But I think that's the political. Increasingly, I think that's the political climate in the state.
Is that they're making you pick a team? I don't think it's the state. I think it's everywhere around. Yeah, I think it's social media. It's like if you're not on my team, you're not on the team.
I will give you that. But for that university environment, I think there is a political climate that's looking at the university and telling the university, hey, from a political standpoint in the state, we want you to reflect the values of the state, which now I will say Nebraska is very much, it's a white state, smack in the middle of the Midwest, largely it's an ag state.
But would you agree?
It's going to lean pretty conservative. I'm just saying I don't think the politics of the state should dictate that to the universities.
I would agree with you. Would you agree, though, Omaha's a bit different from the rest of the state, and that is, I believe Omaha is fiscally conservative, pretty socially liberal.
Yeah, and, truthfully, Lincoln tends to be a little bit as well. I think the larger cities are. The problem is I think the politicians in this state are forced to where they have to maybe cater a little bit to everybody else in the state.
You and I may disagree here. My only problem with universities, and this is not Nebraska, it's Iowa State, any college, is that the world of academia has a really high opinion of itself. People in academia.
It can definitely be ivory tower.
This is going to piss a lot of people off. Tenure is, I think, the worst thing that can happen. I really believe that. I believe because you really got to fuck up to get fired at that point. I mean, your accountability seems to go down. You just kind of, it's like once you get on tenure, it's like you're on easy street, and I don't agree with that. You don't have that at your job. I don't have it at my job. I gotta show up every day and prove my worth.
Yeah, and it's a.
I'll never forget.
Large academic institutions can be kind of weird environments to be in.
Harvey Perlman pissed me off one night. We're at a press conference. There's a weird one. Harvey, when he says, "Oh, if you want to fire me as chancellor, that's fine. I have tenure in the law school, and I'll just go back and teach." No, you should just be gone. Period. I mean, he had the fallback on it.
Well, and that's the thing. It's if you're actually putting that out there, as a fallback.
That's what's wrong with academia.
You can have that, but don't say it.
Yeah, but that's what's wrong with it.
Yeah, it's the academic Well, okay, so it gets attributed to Henry Kissinger. I don't know if that's 100% true, but there's the old line that it's like university politics or academic politics are particularly vicious. Precisely because the stakes are particularly small. They're fighting over these little these little pieces of the pie, these little things like tenure that everybody's fighting over. And so the politics within academics tend to be really vicious. Everybody's fighting over a pretty small pie.
I don't get that. What does this mean with Ted Carter leaving? What do you think it means for athletics? Trev had just negotiated a deal where basically he moved himself up the org chart to where he didn't have to report directly to the UNL chancellor. He reported directly to Ted Carter. That was kind of a coup. That was a big get for Trev.
I agree. That I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens because I think so much of that with certain leadership positions depends entirely on the person in that leadership position. If you have a very good, very comfortable leader, then it's great. It's going to depend on who comes in there. I think Carter was a very good leader because, and again, I kind of like some of these guys with military background, and it's not because it's anything specific to the military. It's the fact that you've got people that have been in leadership positions in massively large organizational structures with lots of moving parts, lots of hierarchy, lots of layers, and people in the military who are high-end leaders, your generals, your admirals, guys coming out of those positions in the military generally are very good at and are very used to dealing with these very large structural organizations with lots of moving parts. And I thought that's part of the reason why Ted Carter was so good.
Well, the interesting part with athletics coming up is that it hasn't been announced yet, but I can tell you there's going to be a massive, massive thing coming up at the stadium. Okay. It's going to be big. And you're going to need a president that's on board with that because we're talking a lot of money. Not a little bit of money.
Well, because we're
talking a lot of money.
Because we talked a little bit. Now, we know there's been discussion about renovating the stadium, the seats, concourses, things they might do, because they sent out that survey looking for ideas. And at one point, there was a little bit of discussion about moving the stadium.
They're not going to do that.
Not move it, but build a new
stadium.
one.
They're not going to do that.
And I know they're not going to do that. So that means they're renovating.
They're going to renovate. And it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be massive, and it's going to cost a lot of money.
Is this something that happens in 1 year, or is this going to be like a multi-year process?
It depends on there could have been someone who got it done in 21 months. They picked I believe a different group that could get it done in like 34 months. So, but that hasn't been announced yet. We're not announcing it here. I'm just saying it's rumors that I've heard. Okay. That's all I'm saying. But I'm just saying you're going to need a president that's on board with that, right? You're going to need a campus that's on board with that. Even though you could say you're going to privately raise it all, let's just throw an arbitrary number out there. You throw $500 million into a stadium project, that pisses academics off.
Yes.
Okay. Just know that could happen.
Although keep in mind, there's a lot of athletic money at Nebraska that flows out to academics.
You don't have to convince me. A good athletic department is the most important thing a university can have. I've told the story here about the University of Mississippi. When my daughter started working at the University of Mississippi, they had like 3 dorms that were empty. She was in charge of trying to get people to retain. Lane Kiffin comes in. They are building 2 more dorms because they're packed to the gills.
Yeah, and they still don't have room to put everybody.
Yes. So, I mean, you need a program, a winning athletic program, a winning football program is so important to a university that the financials make total sense. We don't talk a lot of high school football on this show. And, when your son played at Westside, we did. But there's a couple things that happened in the opening week of high school football that really bothered me.
Omaha Westside crushed Prep 57-7.
That bothered me.
Did that bug you?
Oh, did you see that?
Sorry about that.
My son's a Prep grad. You see that?
That was no fun.
Did you ever lose to Westside?
I can't remember.
I don't think you did.
The last, I do know I saw an internet post. So the Rizak family, their older son Dom was one of the star running backs. Now plays for Vanderbilt.
Yep.
He's in my son's class, so just started his second year in school. He has two younger brothers, both all-state football players for Westside. Currently, I believe, are they seniors? I think they're seniors this year. They were both, and it's twin brothers, so they were both in 6th grade the last time Westside lost to Prep.
Wow. So Owen graduated 18. So I thought you guys won that year because you were on crutches because you blew your knee out. But I thought you guys won.
I can't remember totally.
Yeah.
There's a part of me that feels like we lost, but I can't remember.
I'd have to check. I know in 2019
it was an ass kicking.
Yeah, in 2019 Westside won because that was my son's sophomore season. And I think they played Prep twice that year, regular season and playoffs. Beat them both times.
Because Owen got to the semifinals, had Kearney beat, and then Kearney, on like the last play of the game, friggin' won it to keep Prep out of the state championship game. But here's what bothered me over the weekend. I don't care who you are. Lincoln North Star beat Benson 93-0. That's embarrassing on Lincoln North Star's part. It really is.
Yeah,
93. Come on.
I didn't watch the game. I mean, Westside played Benson. Oh shit! It was they played Benson my son's senior year. It was pretty ugly. They went to the running clock. Westside emptied the benches.
Take a knee. I don't care. I know you're going to say that's what you know. 93 points.
They had everybody in. We played one year. We played Omaha Northwest.
Well,
and I think they scored 70. But I mean, again, it was one of these. They emptied the benches. They had the running clock. I think Westside did not pass in the second half. And Benson actually scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. Northwest scored 2 or 3 touchdowns. So it wasn't a shutout. I would have liked to have thought North Star would have figured out a way to
just not score.
Speed the game up, burn clock.
And not score.
Not necessarily score 93 points. But I've been to some of those games with some of those teams where I've literally seen the opponents, like the ball snapped and they just stand up. They just don't care anymore. And
I know people are going to be wrong saying, well, you don't quit. You don't tell people that. I get that. But there's a bigger issue here, and it's an Omaha Public Schools issue. And that is because Omaha Central beat Northwest 78-0. Bryan, which isn't good anyway, beat Omaha South 47-7. Either you make those... The NSAA has to step in and say, listen.
I thought moving them to Class B would have been kind of...
B or C.
Yeah.
And because look at Bennington's Class B, Scott's Class B, they'd kick the shit out of those teams. Which
actually, Class B is a tough division.
It really is.
Elkhorn's good. Aurora's good.
Then I know school pride's on the line here. Then OPS has to come in and say, Benson, you're going to go... You guys are going to go play with North. North's really good. South... You guys are going to go play with either Bryan or going to play with Buena Vista because that's not good for those kids. It's not good for the school.
Consolidate the football team.
The numbers aren't there. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
Which, by the way, I mean, for people listening, that's not a completely unknown scenario within sports in the state. I know, because I think it's for swim and dive, I think I got to double check and see. Like there was a period of time there where Elkhorn had
Duchenne and Roncalli swim together. There's
been other schools that have done joint teams like that.
But it's not. Benson doesn't have the numbers.
Rare that you see that in a sport like football. But a lot of these schools you're right. They just don't have the numbers.
And you don't have people at Benson going out for football. At Northwest, Steve Warren tried. He tried. But he got out of there quick because it was just not a good situation. It's
Steve
hard.
or Damon?
No, Steve. Steve Warren was the head coach for 2 years.
Because I thought Damon tried.
Damon tried as well. Didn't work out, right? I mean, you get there and you go, Northwest today is not what it was when Damon Benning went to school there.
I feel bad because I know Clinton Childs was one of the wrestling coaches at Northwest, and it was the exact same thing. It's hard to get the kids interested in participating in the club sports that feed into the schools, whether it's football or wrestling. And I mean, I know Clinton finally, because he wasn't getting any club participation, he ended up moving over to Burke.
Listen, we could do a whole show on OPS, the geographical areas, the poverty rates, everything, and how this is affecting sports. I don't want to go into that direction. All I'm saying is we're talking about schools that are in tough parts of the city, poverty-stricken, and majority or minority.
But nobody's putting viable solutions out there for that.
I think we just did.
Yeah.
Benton, go to North. South, go to Buena Vista or Bryan.
Consolidate or drop down a division
and
or
only
two.
for sports, or only for football. We're not even talking basketball. We're talking the football numbers don't make sense. Get these kids on bigger numbers, keeps them healthier. If that keeps up for Benson, they're not going to have nobody's going to be left at the end of the year. It's not.
Exactly.
They're just not going to be there. So it's for the betterment of the kids and make the sport fun for everybody. Where it wasn't fun, and I don't know the guy's name. You guys can do an internet search on this. You had Bennington play Scott Catholic on Friday night.
Okay, you're like...
Dude, that was the worst call I've ever seen.
I know, but you don't dock somebody.
I'm not docking him. I said I don't know who he is. I'm just saying it's a bad call.
You just said do an internet search.
No, to watch the play.
Oh.
No. To why? Because I
thought you were advocating
no.
I don't
want
to. Dude,
I don't want him to. No, if you haven't seen it, because we have people listening to this in Cyprus. Believe it or not, we're like the number 2 football podcast in Cyprus.
Nice.
It must be
both guys that watch.
Yeah.
Both guys that listen.
I'm just saying, if you haven't seen the play, it's all over the internet right now because it's a horrible, horrible call. If I'm Scott Catholic,
I've seen it. The guy, he was right there.
Oh, he should not officiate a game the rest of the year. He shouldn't. If you're going to miss that, Rob, it was right in front of him.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
Was not a good call.
No, bad. What a way to kick off the high school football season. Blowouts and controversial finishes.
Controversy.
Hey, just want to remind everybody that Central Federal Credit Union is back to present the Doc's Diagnosis. You ready to go to the Telestrator next week? You're going to be ready for that?
We're going to have to be.
I know. Subscribe to the Doc Talk Sports YouTube channel as Dr. Rob will break down plays weekly. I was on the Centris website today. They're offering competitive rates on home equity loans. Whatever your financial needs are, start today by visiting centrisfcu.com. Another reason to subscribe to the Doc Talk Sports YouTube channel, Behind the Point Spread, presented by BetFred Sports. Our first show is going to be on Wednesday during the college. You'd think I could read my own script. We're going to kick off the college football season. We're going to be live on YouTube, break down the big games of college football, including Minnesota and Nebraska. We're joined every week by Nebraska native and professional sports handler and handicapper Scott Spreitzer. And speaking of that, with BetFred, if you're looking at placing some NCAA college football bets and win total bets, place any Power 5 win total wager at BetFred and be eligible for an immediate 10% back on up to $100 in Fred bets. Download the BetFred Sports app today. Remember, you got to be 21 plus, located in the state you are betting in. And if you have a gambling problem, make sure to call 1-800-BETS-OFF. That was a fat... We're an hour and 14 in, Rob.
Nice. We punched through. We covered some ground today.
We actually talked football today. Did you notice that?
A
little bit of football.
Hey, I wanted to add in here, just because I looked it up real quick, that my senior year we did beat Westside.
In 2018?
In 2017. It would have been,
it could have been
45, 41.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's an 18 grad, so I was thinking that.
Okay, yeah, because I was thinking, I thought they won in 2018.
Okay, so 2017 season because he's an 18 grad.
Okay,
that makes
so
sense.
2017, so 6 years ago.
Yeah. It's been a long time. Wow. So, Owen, you can have that. You can hang that on your hat, man. Right there. You're the last prep team to beat Westside.
You're like the 1990s Nebraska Cornhuskers of Creighton Prep. It's like, back when I played, we still won that game.
Big thanks to Husker Max for distributing this podcast. Head to huskermax.com for the latest news and opinions from a variety of voices. If you have an email for Dr. Rob, send us an email, doctalksports@gmail.com. Follow us on the social channels, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and now TikTok. For Dr. Rob Zatechka, I'm Travis Justice. We will talk to you Wednesday night live on YouTube for Behind the Point Spread. We'll be back next week with another Doc Talk podcast presented by BetFred Sports.